Great. So good afternoon and welcome to the weekly seminar series at the Dadala Institute for Global Health Research. My name is Mary Viktorovich and I'm the Associate Director of the Dadala Institute. Today I'm delighted to host Blessing Ogbuokiri, correct me if I'm wrong, who will lead today's seminar entitled, Can Post-Vaccination Sentiment Affect the Acceptance of a Booster Jab? As is our usual practice, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous land that we're on. As this is a hybrid event and some guests are on different territories, please take the time to offer gratitude and respect for the land on which you're currently living and working. And I would like to acknowledge the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850. I'd like to recognize that we're situated on the traditional territorial area known as Tekaronto, and we acknowledge its current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We also acknowledge this as the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis. This territory is subject of a dish with one spoon wampum belt covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. And this is just, a first step, and hopefully we can do more to acknowledge and support our Indigenous ancestors on this land. So let's begin with a brief introduction to our speaker, Blessing Ogbuokiri. He's a research fellow at the Dadala Institute, a postdoctoral fellow and instructor at York in the Department of Math and Statistics. He holds a Ph.D. in computer science from the School of Computer Science and Applied Mathematics at the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, South Africa. His expertise encompasses a range of areas, including qualitative research, data visualization, machine learning, deep learning, data science, AI ethics and policy, and module content development. Dr. Ogbuokiri is actively involved in various interdisciplinary groups, such as the Africa-Canada AI and Data Innovation Consortium at York, the Black and AI community, the Canadian Black Scientists Network, and the Black Creek Community Health Center. So in today's seminar, Blessing will share his recently published research supported by the Critical Perspectives and Global Health Research Seed Grant, where he analyzes the sentiments of Twitter users from 9 African countries when discussing the second and booster vaccine. The data collected supplements existing vaccination data and captures a more detailed perspective of citizens' attitudes and acceptance towards the booster vaccines. His research aims to develop health policy makers and gain insight from social media data and help health policymakers plan better programs to manage disease outbreak. So as this is a 1-hour seminar that will end at 2 p.m., we'll start with a 20-minute presentation by Blessing, followed by 30 minutes of questions and discussion, and we'll wrap up around 1:55 p.m. So just general reminders to please note that this seminar is being recorded. If you're not asking a question, or please do mute your microphone, and also please use the raise hand button or the chat function to ask a question. So I'd now like to ask Blessing to begin his presentation. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone for the presentation. Okay, those are a few online. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
I'm sure that's my screen. Oh, interesting. Thank you very much. So my name is Blessing, as I was introduced, and I worked on can post-vaccination sentiment increase acceptance of booster jab. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we all have an idea of what happened with people having issue with the vaccination. Some people took the first jab, they feel they don't want to take the second jab. Some took the second jab, they don't want to take the booster jab. Some, took the vaccine and got some adverse effects on it, like having fever, and some even said people died after taking the vaccine. And it came up with a lot of emotional mixed emotions and all that. People complained about it. Some even demonstrated. They felt like they are being controlled with the whole vaccine issue. And some also feel like it was a way of depopulating the population of the world, as the case may be. So some of these discussions were actually happening on social media. People tend to, put their complaints from the comfort of their homes. They tweet something, or they go to WhatsApp, Twitter, or even Facebook, to type how they feel. Even some conspiracy theories also had some issues in that. Had to say things in that manner, and they were able to convince a lot of people of not taking the vaccine. So this we actually looked at, and we are like, it's actually very interesting to find out how people feel after they have taken the vaccine, and what kind of message that they put out there for people to take. So that took us to what we considered concerning using social media data. So the big question is it possible for us to use data from social media, social media platform, to supplement existing data? Because the whole idea is that we know that social media generates a lot of data. Can we actually tap into this data to be able to understand how people behave towards the acceptance of the booster vaccination, especially in the 9 African countries that we actually focus on? And 9 African countries that we are working on is Botswana, Cameroon, Eswatini, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. Now, before now, there are some issues that actually gave us this understanding that social media data is something that we can actually reckon on. First of all, there was a time where I did my Ph.D. in the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, where the fees must fall hashtag was trending. And before you know it, it became a full-blown protest in the city of Johannesburg. What happened? The university increased students' tuition fees, and they revolted, and it started with a hashtag. There is also the Operation Dudula, or the Operation Dudula simply is like kind of a hashtag that actually was propagated towards black people, against black people, like the South Africans, the indigenous South Africans, to not want foreigners to, they feel like foreigners are taking their jobs. So that Operation Dudula, this hashtag actually, started trending. By the time it started trending, it became a full-blown protest to the entire country, that a lot of properties and shops were burnt and demolished. Then another is the NSAS protest that happened in Nigeria sometime in 2020 or so, thereabout, in October. What happened is that there was police brutality, and some people just started tweeting about NSAS. SAS is kind of a special police team that actually goes out for those robberies and arrest people for that. But they actually started acting above board, and they killed some people that it has to, people started tweeting about it, that they should end SARS. Before you know it, it became a full-blown protest in the city of Lagos, Abuja, and some other big cities in Nigeria. Then the last and the most recent one is the obedience movement that happened in Nigeria during the Nigerian election, where people, started tweeting about obedience movement. That obedience movement actually represents a particular candidate who wasn't that popular before the election. But immediately they started tweeting about this movement. This whole thing actually engulfed the political space at that time. And the outcome of it is that they actually made so much impact that some of the states, you can call it a province in this part of the world, were actually taken by the political party, which is Labour Party, that the obedient movement were actually moving for. And some other opposition political parties were saying that they are just 4 people tweeting in a room, that they don't have any impact. However, at the end of the day, they had a lot of impact on the political space, and they were able to take a lot of, the movement actually trickled down to reality, and it was able to, took a lot of the seats in the parliament. So what are we trying to do here? The background I'm trying to paint here is that the relevance of the data that we get from social media is quite very, very effective and very interesting. Knowing that some of the things that happen on social media actually, when it can actually affect what we do in real life. It starts like like as if it's not a serious thing. So that's why we actually consider that part. And it's okay, we can actually look at what people post, especially on Twitter, because we use Twitter in this case because we believe that Twitter actually gives us leverage. That was at the time of this research actually, because now the Twitter API has been blocked. We can get access to data as we used to before. Then we had access. We were able to download up to 10 million tweets in a month. So we have such access. Okay, so okay, all right. So the major aim of this work is basically to get tweets that actually are discussing about the second and booster vaccination. I will categorize them based on the articles and use the information to supplement existing vaccination data in order to comprehend citizens' attitude towards accepting the booster vaccination. Now, what we are doing is basically to find out, can we find a correlation between what is being discussed on social media and the vaccination uptake in these countries that we're talking about? I mean, that will let us have an idea that, okay, somewhat, maybe what is happening on social media could have some influence on the real life, especially when it comes to vaccination uptake. So before we started, we first of all got the vaccination data up to October 10, 2022 for the 9 African countries we're working with. That's one major thing to note here is that countries like Eswatini do not have booster vaccination. Nobody that got the booster vaccination at this time, and Eswatini, Cameroon as well, do not have anyone that has taken the booster vaccine. Okay, so there are a lot of factors that could actually affect this at this time. It could be that they didn't have access to it. It could also be that the citizens were not properly informed about the booster vaccination. It could also be that they didn't want to take it. I mean, people had a lot of reasons for not taking the booster vaccine at that time. Okay. Okay, so we also tried to visualize the booster vaccination by countries. So what we did was to, use color coding to show the thicker the color, it shows how much that country has actually, participated in taking the vaccine, the particular vaccine at that time. So we use the colors to actually differentiate the people that are partially vaccinated, fully vaccinated, and the people that have also taken the booster shot. And when we say partially vaccinated, of course, we refer to people that took maybe the first jab or first dose and they've not taken the second dose. Fully vaccinated are people that have taken the first and second dose, or people that maybe their vaccine is only one dose that they need to take and they are okay. And the booster dose, of course, is the booster is possibly the third shot or the second shot for those that took the only one dose. So now we try to get the data from Twitter by getting the keywords that represent the booster dose or the booster shots. Those keywords are what we use to have access to the Twitter API that we're using to be able to scrape all the Twitter data that we use. And of course, our focus was on the 9 African countries that we're working with. Then we downloaded up to 242,000 tweets. And after processing, of course, when we download it, we do a lot of pre-processing to make the data ready for the kind of analysis we want to do on it. So we're able to get it up to 136,000 tweets. So the trend of the booster-related tweets with time, what we see here is that around January 2022, we had a peak of the tweets as they were coming, and it flattened within the month of February all down to June. Then in July, it also went up again, came back down, and September, it went up again. So apparently, maybe the very first time in 2022, when the whole news of booster vaccination started, and people were talking about it, possibly that's where it went up and it flattened again. Then it went up again here. This actually was almost the era when I think another variant came out. Maybe Omicron came within November, within October and November, So we also tried to get the most common words that actually represent this data that we have. We want to be sure that what we are working with is actually a data that has more of the booster discussions. And the visualization we did here actually also shows that booster vaccination was one of the most mentioned words in the data. So we tried to do sentiment classification here to know the sentiment that have been expressed on these tweets, and we're able to classify these tweets according to their sentiment in terms of negative, positive, and neutral. Okay, now what we did again was to first of all check the relationship, with the negative tweets and tweet intensity. So when we label the tweets, we're able to get their intensities as per how much of that tweet or that they were discussing it, how much were they at what level they were discussing it. So we found that there was a negative correlation between the increase in tweets, especially the negative tweets, and the intensities. Then also we checked the retweets. How much were people retweeting these negative tweets? Is it like when somebody says something about the vaccine, are people really liking it, or are people really retweeting it? We found also that people were also retweeting, at that same pace. People were also retweeting the tweets. When people say something negative about it, you get more likes and more retweets. So we did a correlation, to find out if there is a relationship between the increase in the negative tweets intensity with the decrease in booster shots. We noticed that there was a negative correlation with the decrease in the booster shots and the increase in negative tweet intensities actually. Another thing we did also was to do the same, to take the same process to do and to repeat the same thing for positive tweets and the tweet intensities. We also found out that while increase in tweets was correlating with the positive tweet intensities, there is also a correlation between the retweets, the likes with respect to the positive tweet intensity, and we saw that the increase in the positive tweet intensity showed a very high statistical positive correlation with the increase in booster shots. Again, it shows that as people were, talking about these tweets, talking about the booster shots or discussing, saying good things, positive things about the booster shots, it actually correlated with the increase in the booster shots. To an extent, or at some point, one could say it means that what is happening on social media have the tendency of influencing the increase in how people take the vaccine at that time. So another thing we did was to actually find out what was forming these topics. What are the topics that people what topics are people discussing on this based on these tweets that we are getting and the data that we have. After the pre-processing and the whole analysis, we found out that we got about 5 relevant topics, to what we are doing. Number one is the booster safety, the booster efficacy, booster type for Omicron, and the booster uptake and the vaccine uptake, and they have their representative keywords. Then we tried also to find the representative tweets that actually form these topics. For every topic there are different tweets that actually form it, and these tweets also have different emotion, different sentiment, and some of them are coming from different countries as well. So of course, we know that topic 0 is the booster safety, topic 1 is the booster efficacy, topic 2 is the booster type for Omicron, topic 3 is the booster uptake, and topic 4 is vaccine uptake. As you can see here, you see that on this booster safety topic, somebody posted that boosters, go get yours. It's safe, guys. So possibly this person has taken the booster and feels comfortable with it, and that is classified as a positive sentiment, and it's coming from South Africa, and that is how we're able to, identify some of these tweets. Now, what we did was to find out the topic discussions by country. So what we found out that Botswana, Botswana had, for the booster safety countries, for the booster safety topic, Botswana had more positive tweets than negative tweets, and or negative sentiment, as the case may be. For the booster efficacy, Botswana also had positive sentiment, and for the booster type, Botswana had positive sentiment, and also more positive for the booster uptake. However, for the vaccine uptake, like the general vaccine uptake, they had negative sentiment. Now, this does not show, some of correlation here, because the number of fully vaccinated people in Botswana are like 67.7%. This is like one of the biggest in Africa, while the percentage of people boosted are like 16.2%. Okay, there are a lot of factors that could actually affect this. This could be that the booster vaccines were not available. It could also be that even while people are also talking about having good sentiment about the vaccine, they are not really taking it. They are saying good things, but they don't have the courage to go take it. So for Nigeria, we also had the same issue where all the topics had, based on our data, all the topics had positive sentiment, except the vaccine uptake, where we have more negative sentiment. However, with relation to the population of Nigeria, we had only 13% of 13.3% of the fully vaccinated people in the country, while 0.4% of the population had only were only boosted. This is actually very, very low compared to the population of the country. That's like I said, there are a lot of factors that could actually affect this. For South Africa, we also had the same issue, even though that they had 6%, which is a little bit higher than what Nigeria had for the boosted people. Then Namibia also had the same issue, and Mozambique had the same issue. However, Rwanda is one of the countries in Africa that actually showed quite compliance with, if I may call it, with acceptance of the booster dose. But they didn't have much tweets coming from this country for us to be able to, do some kind of correlation analysis to find out if there is a relationship with what happens on social media and that. But they have quite a high number compared to other African countries that we've worked with, and the fully vaccinated people, with respect to the population of the country, were 77%, and they had 42.9% of their citizens that have taken the booster jab. Cameroon and Eswatini do not actually showed 0% booster uptake at this in this country, so they didn't have people that have taken the booster. Like I said, there could be some challenges, which could be, maybe they didn't have it, because I remember at some point African countries were actually, soliciting for these vaccines, and they were not getting it in time. Some also got it, and they were not able to, people didn't come to take them, and they expired. So in general, we discovered that most of the topics had more positive sentiments than the other sentiment classes. So, but this is somewhat kind of surprising because we find out that it does not really reflect with the vaccination uptake across the countries. You know, people are, there are some good sentiment people are saying about these vaccines, but it does not really reflect the way they are taking the vaccine. Okay, so our findings. We found out that there is an average of 45.5 chance of tweets discussing these topics to carry positive sentiment based on our data that we have. And we also found out that while more users express positive sentiment towards discussion on booster topic like topic 3, the rate of booster vaccine uptake is still relatively low, across different countries. So, like I said, actually, this is supposed to be unavailability of data, not unviability. So this could be unavailability of vaccine. It could also be, fear of the unknown. People might just be scared of they think if they take the vaccine, they're going to die or they'll be zombified. And people say it makes them to be zombies, or people, it's for the depopulation of the world and all that. Then it's also possible that citizens' attitude expressed on social media towards booster shots can actually affect, or have an impact on whether or not people can accept the booster shots, either positively or negative. So what we are saying here is that with what we have on social media and the social media data, it is very, very, possible that how citizens express their attitude on social media can actually affect the vaccination uptake in general. So we also, agree that this study should be useful to help policymakers in utilizing information from social media, and can also assist in management and planning vaccination program during disease outbreak. So what we actually, the framework that we presented is that when people, when policymakers actually have access to this kind of data and are able to read insights from it, they can actually, have a forehand kind of information about how people are, behaving towards the vaccination or towards that particular disease at that time. It can actually be ported into a particular community, get what they are speaking about, because people sit from the comfort of their homes and they can even insult the government, but they are expressing themselves. They are not, scared of anything at that time. So it can be very useful to the policymakers to be able to know how to go about these issues. Okay, so our concluding remark and some significance of the work for policy and practice, we believe that post-vaccination statements can play a role, in increasing acceptance of booster shots. If people feel positive about a particular vaccine or about their experience when they took a particular vaccine, that may likely, increase, their chance of coming back or even telling people about it, or recommending that particular vaccine. I mean, if someone takes a vaccine and it didn't get any reaction, or even if he gets a reaction and was able to manage it, the person can actually convince another person to take that same vaccine that it didn't do me anything, so I recommend it, you can take it. And so if the benefit of the vaccine, are well publicized. So one other thing is, publicity is very important, especially when it comes to things like this, like policymakers or health policymakers or community leaders can actually take the opportunity to effectively pass communication to the communities, for them to build that trust, because at some point people actually lost hope. The issue of trust was something to people were scared of, people didn't trust the government and all that. Okay, so it's also important to note that individual factors such as personal belief, also access to information and existing health condition also play a role in the vaccine acceptance. We know that, like Africa, where some religious leaders, talked to people, they were telling their followers not to take the vaccine, they told them a lot of things that could actually happen if they take the vaccine. We saw some, maybe social media influencers post a lot of things. We know of some conspiracy theories that actually, not try to discourage people to take the vaccine. So all those things can actually come to play, given that a lot of people assimilate these things and it can affect them. It affects their way of accepting the vaccine, and it can also play a very vital role in the way they accept the vaccine or not. And this is not just for COVID-19 or for the booster jab alone, and that is why it's also very important if policymakers adopt this approach, because we've been taking vaccines, and these vaccines were publicized for us to take them. The importance is also one thing, that if people know that yes, this is going to be very useful and it's well publicized, they build that trust, and the religious leaders encourage them to take it, then everybody will be fine, and it becomes easier to address challenges or outbreaks when they come. Okay, so there are some limitations we faced when we did this work. One is the fact that the Twitter data used for this research reflects the opinion of Twitter users located in these 9 African countries. Of course, not everyone is on Twitter, and it's not everyone that tweets. Some people are on Twitter that don't even tweet. So that's why we see it as a limitation for this work. And another one is it's estimated that approximately 15% of online adults, aged from 18 to 34 are on Twitter, or use Twitter within these countries that we're talking about. So we know that most people that are on Twitter or on social media in general are basically young people. Yes, there are some percentage of adults or people that are above this age that also use this Twitter, but for these countries, that we have more people within this age range that use Twitter. So I think it's also a limitation for the research. As a result, it is also important to note that this research does not represent the view of the entire population, regarding COVID-19 related vaccine discussion in these countries. We know that a lot of people have their opinions. They are not on social media, but they have things they can say about the vaccine and all that. So the work does not represent the entirety of the country, and their view concerning this COVID-19. We also, so to this effect, the work rather offers valuable insights, derived from Twitter data to complement the existing data. So what we did was, or what we're doing is actually to get data from this social media and use it to support, existing data in order to, support policy making process. Okay, at this point, I would like to thank everyone for coming, and thank you for your time.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Blessing. That was really, really fascinating. Let me begin. I believe Hetzron has a question in the chat. Hetzron, would you like to ask your question around, it has to do with your methods? Or would you like me to read it?
Yeah, I think that my question has already responded to the limitation, because I think that is part of the limitation. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Blessing, for the presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, those were really fascinating results that you found. I'm just wondering, there were 2 kind of outlier countries in your sample that seem to really do, there was a very high uptake of vaccine, Rwanda and Botswana. And I'm just wondering, tweeting is one thing, but are you aware of other media or other factors going on in those countries that might also have influenced the people there?
Oh yeah, thank you very much, Professor Mary, for your question. And yeah, I'm very much aware. There is a lot of the government actually did a lot of good work. They were able to publicize it, and just like what I said earlier, that publicity is very important. But at this point, the government of the day encouraged their citizens, and they made it mandatory for them to take it. And another thing is that, it's relatively easy to manage, because the population of the country is not that much, compared to countries like Nigeria, where you have over 250 million people. we don't even know, and the landmass is also a lot, with over 250 ethnic groups. So a lot of people have different opinion and different understanding of this whole thing. Some feel they can actually use their herbs to take care of themselves, so they don't care about the orthodox kind of medication. So yes, to answer the question directly, yes, the government actually helps in this issue. They were able to communicate and pass quite good publication, and it actually publicity rather. It actually worked for them in this regard.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I think that's certainly something that other countries could learn from. What about, do you know if any countries actually, like the public health system, sought out some champions, like I think you mentioned religious leaders or celebrities, sports stars, those kinds of folks to encourage it, whether it be through tweet or another method?
Okay, do you mean the ones that encourage people to take the vaccine or not to take the vaccine?
Yeah, around, and the vaccine and the booster both, yeah.
Well, none that I can remember now, but I know that there were rumors of people saying things like that in terms of telling their followers not to take the vaccine, especially when to do the ones on social media. For the religious leaders, I don't know if I'm allowed to start mentioning names here. Maybe when we can actually talk privately, but I know quite some religious leaders that discourage people from taking the vaccine.
Yeah, I know here in North America, there were some actually negative tweets from celebrities, and that didn't help. So unfortunately, that kind of goes on as well. So yeah. Yeah, any other questions? Oh, actually, sorry, there is someone in the tweet, sorry, in the chat, and it's Chika. Chika, would you like to ask your question yourself? Still there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Blessing, for that interesting presentation. Okay, so my question is this. Please, could you tell us the keywords that you used to classify the sentiments?
Do you mean, well, sentiments are not really classified by keywords. Sentiments are, classified by and when we say negative, positive, and neutral, there are a lot of things that go beneath on the background in terms of machine learning classification for you to classify a particular sentence as positive or negative. So we use what we call VEDA, which is a natural language processing approach that you use to classify, a text into positive, negative, or neutral sentiment. So we check the words that are being used. That we have dictionary of words. Those words represent like or bag of words, as in simple terms. It represents the words that we can call negative, positive, and neutral, different bags that have them. So when we have a sentence, we broke it, we tokenize it, then try to get the words from it. When we do that, we also remove the things like is, and words. We pick the nouns and possibly possibly the adverbs, the adjective. We pick those words. Those words are what we're going to check in the bag of words to find out if whether they are in the positive or negative bags. When you get that, then the occurrence of those words determines the percentage of the score that will be given to that particular word. When you calculate all of them put together and normalize it, you'll be able to know whether that particular sentence or that particular text can be classified as positive, negative, and neutral. So it's a bit complicated, and I didn't want to start bugging everybody with all the whole machine learning approach that we did there. But that's how, in a nutshell, that's how it works. That's how texts are classified. Maybe a quick write up to that.
Hey, well, thank you, Blessing, for that. Yeah, maybe I could ask you about your, where do you plan to take this research in the future? Like, what is your, do you have any plans for next steps, or do you have any recommendations for, you know, even someone else in the future research? What kind of research would be good to continue to inform policymakers?
Yes. So presently we are working towards earlier warning system. So we are trying to now see how we can get these discussions going on social media and other social media platforms. Like I've been working with Twitter a lot, and now Twitter has actually monetized the data, if I may say it. You know, for you to get data from Twitter, you have to pay up to $42,000 a month. So we are trying to, you know, look at to other sources. I'm looking at Facebook. I'm looking at Instagram, and also trying to see how possible it's going to be to also have access to WhatsApp. I don't know how much possible. These are like futuristic kind of thoughts. Then we are trying to see if we can get this data and use them to make a prediction of what can happen in the future. So more like earlier warning kind of system. So it's where the future is for us.
That sounds really interesting. So I'm just going to open it up again, see if anybody else has any questions or any discussion points. This is a very hotly debated topic, and you know, we have COVID, but there could be a future pandemic. So you know, another virus indeed. So yeah, this kind of data and findings, very interesting to inform the future. So I guess on that note, I will thank you very much, Blessing, for the great work you've done, the great research, and the great presentation. And also like to thank members of the audience. And I look forward to seeing you all at our next event, which is the 5th Summer Global Health Intern Symposium. That'll take place next month on August the 30th at 11 a.m. And just continue to check the DADALA website for more information. And with that, I will close this seminar. So thank you again, Dr. Blessing, and wish you all the best in your future research.
Hi, Mary.
Yes.
We have some questions in the audience still, but we can just have them here in person.
Oh, okay. Sure, if that works, that's fine. Sorry, I can't see the room so well. Yeah, whichever way you'd like to do it, Teresa, but sure, if you'd like to continue in person, that might work best for the folks there.
Thank you. Okay.
Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you, Blessing, for this really excellent presentation. My name is Emmanuel. You were talking about the intensity of the tweets. I wanted you to highlight more what you meant by that. I knew most of the data you collected had to do with the frequency, but at some point you were mentioning about the intensity of the tweets as one of the variables you use. Maybe you'll touch on that. I also wondered, the other thing was the comment, really. I think this is a very important work in helping to design the best communication strategy, perhaps to use in reaching the target population that you want to vaccinate. We are aware that there are other social media platforms you can use. You have mentioned some of them. It will also be important to explore what kinds of people are using these platforms and whether they can also be reached with information that can change their behavior towards accepting the vaccine. So this is really key. So it helps you to not only monitor the communication that you're already doing, it also helps you to evaluate the impact of the strategies you are using, whether they are working or not, and what you can do to improve them or reach more of your target audience. with the right information. It also helps you to understand what those negative sentiments are and be able to tailor your messages, to address them, and then using those appropriate platforms to provide the information. So this is really a very important work, and you can really expand very much on that in a very beneficial way. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Can I go? Can I talk?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. So I think the other ones are more of comments. The one that I think I need to respond to is the intensity part. So, how the natural language processing technique works and the machine learning part works is that when we have a sentence, there are words in those sentences. For instance, if I say, if you use the word something like kill to qualify your feeling, or maybe you say these guys are killing me, but you're supposed to say, maybe you want to say, maybe somebody's tired of something and it's using the word kill. So that word kill has the weight of that word is actually high, because when the machine translates it, there's some scores that are given to these words. So those scores determine the intensity of that particular sentence that you make. Just like literally when someone says something, someone will tell you that, do you know the gravity of what you just said down? You know what I'm saying? There's no way you measured it, but you know that what that person said can actually kill someone even when the person has not even killed. So these are the ways we get the intensity. So the machine actually gets the words and assigns scores to it. So when the score is actually high for a particular tweet or for a particular test, then it becomes that it has a high intensity. By the time you actually get all of them, maybe get the average and use it to check the vaccination uptake by, of course, the vaccination uptake will normalize it. You will see if there is a correlation between them. Then it means that what people are saying can actually affect the vaccine at that time. So that's how it goes.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious. So it's more like a technical question. You use Python to do the data processing and modeling and stuff. What package do you use to do the text pre-processing and that sort of thing? I'm curious. Okay,
so that's we use natural language toolkit.
Okay.
Then we also use tweet preprocessor. But in general, the main tool that we actually use to do all the whole Python thing is scikit-learn.
Okay. Yeah.
Scikit-learn is like a package that has almost everything that you need. So with scikit-learn, you can actually get your natural language toolkit. So it depends on how you want to do the cleaning. So there's also what we call regular expression. You can actually do regular expression on the tweet by removing your URLs, you're removing all the special characters and all that. Because I mean, those things can actually form noise into the data. They are not words, and they can actually conflict add some noise, and it becomes a problem when you want to analyze your research or your data.
I'm not sure if this is so. Like, what kind of word embeddings did you use? Was it like do you use Word2Vec, or did you use I don't know. There was another one.
It's Word2Vec actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Then my question is there a way, or do you think that there's value in evaluating with in the data scraping to look at the number of users? Because some users are probably mega users of Twitter that would tweet all day, every day. Did you evaluate not based on number of tweets, but the actual user itself, or the specific individual?
Anyways,
can you do
programmatically? No. I mean, that's why we're having this discussion, right? So programmatically, it might sound like it's undoable, because the only way people that somebody is a mega user, if I may call it, is that the person's account is verified. So when this person has a blue tick, means that the account is verified. But ordinarily, one can say, okay, maybe the number of tweets that comes from a particular account that can help you to, and of course, it's very important to us. If one person is tweeting, and then it shows that person actually is interested in that particular topic, or that person has an influence, is actually trying to champion a narrative concerning a particular topic. So number of tweets is also very important. So another thing is that we do is we try to analyze this tweet and actually find out what is the intensity, what actually is this person talking about. It could be that the person is not even saying anything, but just the sarcasm, or the person is posting some neutral kind of thing. So that's where we come in. So, well, it could be possible to think in that line, like I haven't thought about it. It could be possible to think in that line actually, but the only way I can actually remember right now is that the super users are the verified accounts.
Could also maybe look at like how many unique retweets that tweet received.
How many what?
Retweets. So if it's retweeted a lot of times,
yeah,
then it could indicate that, or retweeted a lot of times by unique users, you could assign that tweet like a higher weight or something.
Interesting. So that's one. However, if I say something interesting, right, that the public likes, they will like it and they will retweet it. That does not make me a super user.
Yeah.
It shows that at that time the conversation I'm driving is interesting them, and maybe that's my expertise. If I put something and maybe soccer, for instance, I'm a soccer fan, and I type something, and all my soccer friends, all my soccer fan friends, they like it as well. They will just like it and retweet it. But that doesn't make me good. It's soccer, a super user of Twitter in terms of soccer tweets and all that. So,
I actually had my use case or my application was a little bit different. I was thinking like, if this tweet, say, had a very positive sentiment towards the vaccine, and it gets retweeted a lot, I'm wondering if maybe there's some kind of correlation between like a lot of positive tweets that get retweeted a lot and more people getting vaccinated. It might be a bit complicated to actually.
I mean, you're making sense. We didn't consider it this way actually, but I mean, it's something that. That's why we're having this conversation. So it's something that one can actually think about. I mean, it's a very interesting thing to actually know if that actually can happen that way. Yeah, it could be something one can actually delve into to find out if it happens.
Yeah. The other thought about the super users might also just be like how many connections that the person who's tweeting has, and how engaged they are. Just to weed out like this person might have bot followers, or bot followers, and
so yeah, I get you, but I'm not sure. I don't remember the original. I'm not sure we are allowed to have access to the number of followers by a user when you are expecting the data. No, you don't. I think those information. Twitter actually advises you not to expose personal information. So we do top ethical standard when it comes to the data collection and data sharing. So we are concerned mostly on the tweet IDs, the date of the tweet, possibly the location of the tweet, not even the user per se, the location of the tweet. The reason why, because our kind of research, we are concerned about the location.
Yeah.
We want to know like where the tweet is coming. And one other thing that I didn't even mention is the fact that people use VPN to tweet sometimes, especially people that want to like be mischievous. They try to maybe put their location to be Africa, and they are here tweeting, and they are championing a cause. So that could affect our kind of data. However, we still have something that we can actually lay hands on to say, policymakers, this data, we can actually, make meaning from it, use it to some point champion, the direction at which, like he said, have a framework that can actually help you to communicate to this community. So yeah, those kind of assets, we try to restrict it not to, have the data exposed details or information.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Any final questions, or? Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Blessing, for sharing your really interesting findings with us. And yeah, and thinking about future approaches and also the comments and questions from everyone who attended to make a very meaningful dialogue. So again, thank you so much, everyone. And we would look forward to seeing you on for our next seminar on August the 30th at 11 a.m. So thank you so much. Take care. Have a great